After 2.5 years of ownership of this Lexus RX350, it's time to discuss all the pros and cons of owning this vehicle. If you're thinking about buying a used Lexus RX350, then stay tuned while we discuss all the things you need to know and look out for before buying or while owning one of these vehicles. With some minor technology upgrades, your Lexus RX350 can be just as good, if not better, than many of the new cars they're cranking out today. I'm standing in front of a 2007 Lexus RX350, and it has been dubbed as one of the best vehicles that you can buy, best SUVs for under $10,000. Now, is that true? Well, we're gonna get to the bottom of it because I'm gonna tell you all the pros and cons of owning this vehicle for over 2 years' time. So let's talk about some of the pros. Definitely one of the pros is it's a Toyota. So yes, Lexus is the upper class fancy part of Toyota. It's built with Toyota parts, so it has longevity. And you're not spending so much money to maintain one of these like you would a BMW, a Mercedes, a Jaguar, an Alfa Romeo, whatever it may be. This vehicle has a lot of good parts on it. So when you go to change the oil, when you go to replace parts, it says genuine Toyota parts right on it, even though it's a Lexus. As we all know, Toyotas are some of the best made vehicles in the world. Lexus has actually been dubbed even better than Toyota, so why wouldn't you want to buy one of these? So over 2 years ago, we picked this vehicle up behind me for under $10,000, and it has held up great. But other than a few upgrades here and there, and a couple little things that you should look out for if you're deciding to buy one of these for yourself. So let's talk about some of the pros of owning this vehicle in 2020. One of the biggest pros is we have a small child, and if we have a second child, this vehicle is not going anywhere. It definitely accommodates the largest Up-A-Baby stroller they make that can actually hold 2 babies in it, so that's fantastic. And there's plenty of room in the back seat for car seats. So that is a huge bonus. The other big bonus, living here in Florida where it's extremely hot, is there's actually vents for the AC that reach our sun in the back. My 2015 Tacoma doesn't have anything like that, and a lot of cars, even in 2021, don't have that capability. So it's nice that this actually is pumping AC back to our child. As you can see, the back definitely accommodates a stroller just fine, and it has the nice cover to keep the sun off of it and to keep robbers from looking in there and seeing all your goodies. In the back, there's plenty of storage. And we get groceries in this car all the time with the stroller in there. Full groceries for our family, accommodates it perfectly. Now, this vehicle also has the magical hatch that shuts behind you. It also has on the key fob, so when you're doing your grocery shopping and you've got groceries in your hand or a small child, you can hit your fob and open that back up. So these are all great features. None of these features from 2007 are archaic by any means. These are all very standard features on today's vehicles. It has head airbags, side impact airbags, knee airbags. It's got lots of great stuff on it. So one of the cons on this vehicle is that these gas charged, pneumatic, whatever they are, struts will go out. And if you went to Lexus to have them replaced, it's about $600, $300 per strut. That's not including installation. Way too much money to be paying for these. So I bought a set off of Amazon. It was 20-something dollars. And when I put it in here and I tried to shut the door, it would try, but the struts were too strong and it wouldn't pull it down. So I returned them to Amazon. I bought a different set, and these work flawless. There was a couple times when they're breaking in, about 2-3 times I had to physically pull down on the gate and shut it because they were too strong and it wouldn't come down. About 2 times I had to do that, and other than that, they're completely perfect for this vehicle. And guess what? They were about $25 for the set. So I will have a link for that in the description of this video if you're looking for that piece for it, or if you buy one of these and worry about it. They've worked flawless ever since. So don't worry, it's not your motor going out on the back. Hey, it happens. Parts break. So one of the other complaints about a Lexus that a lot of people have is that some of the interior components get a little gummy. And what parts do that? Well, the inside seals on the windows right here get a little gummed up, and they leave this nasty, disgusting streaking on your window. Can you see all this funk that's on the window here? That is on the inside of the glass, and it's caused by a rubber seal that sits right in here that does that. Now there's one easy fix, and that window over there is crystal clear. I took the door panel off and I pulled that rubber seal out, and the problem is solved. However, when you do that, there's a little bit of road noise. I haven't found the rubber seals yet online for a cheap price, and I'm a little hesitant to go to Lexus. I'm sure Lexus is going to charge me $100 for this silly rubber seal that goes on that side. So if you're super cheap and you're not too worried about a little road noise, pop all the door panels off, pull them off. If not, hey, tell you what, if you're saving a bunch of money on your Lexus, that's one thing that you're going to have to likely deal with. Now what is fantastic is how well the leather interior of this vehicle has held up. The leather on this car is flawless. All the door cards is held up really well, all the stitching, nothing is popping up here like a lot of Hondas that I see all the time doing that. It's really well put together. The carpet, the leather, there is all kinds of great things I can say about the quality of all the materials that they have used on the interior of this. So the interior is holding up great here in the sunny Florida sun, where my wife lets this car sit outside all day long at work. Let's talk about this other issue. So this is actually a dash cover. So I'm gonna have a video out for this, and there'll be a link to it. And this dash right here is a plastic cover. Underneath here, the dash actually cracks and gets nasty. And that is the #1 issue with these dashes. If you go down to your Lexus dealer and you're a very assertive person, you might be able to finagle them getting you a new dash on this, or if you're buying it used and you're looking at that being an issue, you can definitely get that tangled with there. There was a lot of recall controversy with that on the dashes of these. You can see on this side what I'm talking about, where there's cracks in the dash. So is this 2007 Lexus RX350 the car for you? I'm hoping you say absolutely. This car has been absolutely wonderful for the last 2+ years, and I have no plans on exchanging it for any other vehicle. So I daily drive a Tacoma, and then when I drive this being my wife's car, I'm like, why don't we own a second one of these? If I didn't need a truck for work, I'd be driving one of these as well. These are really fantastic cars. If you've seen Scotty Kilmer's review, he said it's one of the best cars that you can get into, and I completely understand why. Let's talk about some of the issues that I ran into in the last 2 years of ownership. One issue that I ran into is there's actually an idler pulley that is up on the passenger side down here by the wheel well on the other side, and that little idler pulley makes a little noise. Sounds like a power steering pump's going out. It was fairly cheap and very easy to throw on. So even if you had a shop doing it, it would be a very inexpensive repair, and it just makes a little noise. And I think there might be 2 of them. I'm not sure about it, but so far I've only had 1 to replace on this one, and it was a very, very small, minimal non-issue with doing it. Another thing, if you are gonna end up changing the oil on one of these yourself, don't be afraid, because Lexus is just trying to get you to come down to their dealership and buy their fancy oil change. If you go up underneath, there's a skid plate and you pull it off, and it's not a normal oil filter. It's got a weird little container on it. Put a wrench on it, take it off just like you would any car. Comes off and goes on. But I think they kind of put it on there for the do-it-yourselfers, weekend warriors that are a little nervous about doing that, and I'm just gonna take it to Lexus. I'm not really sure what's going on. Don't be afraid of it. It's no different than a Toyota. It's just in fancier wrapping paper, and just take it off and do it like you would a normal car. One other thing you might want to consider is that if you disconnect the battery on one of these, well, when you do that, it does need some recalibration, and you might lose the window functioning in the rear until it kind of relearns itself. I have not calibrated or brought it back into Lexus or had anybody recalibrate the windows after I disconnected the battery. I've disconnected the battery 4, 5, 6 times, and I lost the functionality from the rear windows, and I was like, that's weird. Drove it a few times and it healed itself. So anyways, I know you're supposed to do that with a sunroof, and there's, you know, I'm sure you can look it up on the internet to do it yourself, but I just let it self-heal. So hey, if you're like me, you're not too worried about it. That's the way I went. Couple upgrades that you can do to make this car better in the 2020 year plus with one of these vehicles is I added a backup camera and I added a new radio. Now the radio installation on this is not exactly for the faint of heart, because tell you what, the radio actually involves adding a resistor in line, and I did it for 2 years installing car stereos, remote starts, and all that stuff. The video is right here. You can take a look at how I did that. It's not that hard. I encourage you to do it, but take your time and make sure you're using the exact wires that you're supposed to be using, because if you don't and you connect the wrong thing, you might lose your AC, and that would be a bad thing. So make sure you're following that step by step. The radio that's in here is Apple CarPlay, so it directly connects Bluetooth capability through my phone, and you can access everything, or your Android capability. Has a backup camera, so you can actually maintain your steering wheel capabilities with the pack converter, and there's a video I did on that one as well. So you can actually have the steering wheel connected to your radio, so the interface, they work together, and what more could you want? You have your steering wheel controls, you have voice controls, you have so many features on this vehicle. So there's one bit of advice I would do before buying one of these vehicles is there's an oil cooler line, and that is actually an oil cooler line that was made out of rubber, and there should have been a recall on it for I think the first 50,000 miles, or maybe it was 100,000 miles, 10 years, whatever it was, before Lexus said, hey, we're not fixing those anymore. It's a little short rubber hose that could break and all your oil runs out, and that's not good. And they replace it with a metal line, and that solves the problem. Now, I called Lexus and said, this is my vehicle, was this recall done? And they said, yeah, it was done, don't worry about it. But before you buy one, make sure that was either done. Call the Lexus dealership, tell them the VIN number, whatever it is, and they'll tell you yay or nay. Or if you're buying it from somewhere, say, yeah, I need that finished. Figure out how much it's gonna cost. And Lexus might even just do it for free, especially if you're buying from a dealer. Say, I'll sign the papers today, just put that oil cooler, the metal ones on there. And you can do it yourself, change the oil, pop it out, put it in. That's what I was planning to do. I was excited because I was gonna make a video on it, but this car already has it done. The transmission on this thing is just like a CVT, one of those continuous variable transmissions. You don't even feel the shifting or exchanging points. It is just flawless, smooth shifting. The ride on this is great. And Scotty Kilmer even said that he had one of these with 180,000 miles. And the customer brought it in because the shop said they needed all new suspension, struts, everything. And he looked at it and was like, this thing is perfect. Don't do anything. He's like, I can't believe that the suspension has almost 200,000 miles on it and it rides great. This car behind me has less than 100,000 miles on it and it rides fantastic. So I was thinking the same thing, like, all right, it's a 07, I need to put struts and all that junk on it. No, you don't. So be careful, beware if anybody's gonna try to sell you on that because hey, they hold up longer than you think. It's a Toyota, so don't forget that. Hey, if you're thinking about buying a Lexus, the Lexus 330, which is the prior years 04, 05, I think 06, you may want to look at that. The 330s, those all had timing belts. 07 and beyond have timing chains. The belt needs to be serviced and it's more expensive. The chains don't need service. So that is a good feature of the 07 and up, and the feature between the 330s and the RX350s. So that's something you want to think about if you're getting one older. Well, now you have to do the maintenance every however many miles for the timing belt, and they're not going to be a cheap fix. Probably under $1,000, but don't quote me on that. Something you should consider if you're looking at one older than this. Also, paint on vehicles as they get older is not going to hold up when you're down in southern states like ourselves, but the paint on this vehicle has held up really, really, really well. I'm super happy with that. There's no fading of the clear coat, anything like that for a vehicle that sits outside in the Florida sun. And I don't see many driving around town with that issue either, like you do with a lot of JDM vehicles. So I'm very happy with the paint, very happy with the drivability, how well the engine is holding up. Tell you what, if you're thinking about buying a vehicle for under $10,000, pick one of these up while you can. They are a really tried and true, well-built, well-made vehicle that you are not going to regret because the ride on these are fantastic. Anyways, I will be doing a video on the dash install for this, so stick around for that. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe, follow the channel. I'm always kind of doing junk like this. So anyways, catch you later.